She is the miss of the Loyal Marquis and also the granddaughter of Princess Chang of Yan. As soon as she opened her eyes, she returned to the starting point. Keywords of the novel. Ruyi Branch without pop-ups. Download the complete set of Ruyi Branch TXT, and read the latest chapters of Ruyi Branch. Chapter 1. Ruyi. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Ruyi. Outside, there was a burnt smell of dried herbs. Su Wanru lay in bed, staring blankly at the sky outside the window. It's autumn again, the sky is blue, it's really dazzling. Smoke with a sticky smell drifted into the room. Su Wanru's eyes blinked, dry and painful. The sound of drums, music, and bamboo could be faintly heard downstairs, probably from the banquet in Ziyuan. I heard a few days ago that Chinchika and Su Luoshue's eldest son are about to get married. I don't know if it's today. Su Wanru tilted her head and looked in the direction of Ziyuan. She collapsed on the bed, unable to be free for many years. The sound of drum music became increasingly urgent, and Su Wanru propped up her arms and barely sat up from the bed. She moved her legs and was about to get out of bed, but fell straight down and didn't move anymore. A rapid sound of footsteps echoed outside, from far to near. The sound of footsteps stopped at the door, and suddenly a little girl exclaimed, "Ayo." Immediately after, there was the sound of the broken earthenware jar, with a clang that was both dull and sharp. "It's so hot." The little girl outside the door shouted, pushed open the door, hurriedly entered the room, took a broom and cloth towel, and planned to go out and tidy up. She didn't take a few steps, but she was stunned for a moment. The person lying on the bed had now fallen to the ground and remained motionless. The little girl quickly dropped the broom in her hand and walked quickly to the bedside, shouting, "Madam, madam." Su Wanru on the ground didn't move at all. The little girl reached out and was about to help, but suddenly withdrew. She turned around and took a broom, poked Su Wanru, but still didn't move. The little girl threw down her broom and suddenly turned pale and thumping, as if she had seen a ghost, and went downstairs. Ruyi Tower is located to the northwest of Qin Mansion, isolated and adjacent to an endless bamboo forest. After the bamboo forest, it is the place where the people of Qin Mansion live. The little girl ran quickly into a yard and shouted out of breath, "Mrs. Hu, is Mrs. Hu there?" 2 or 3 children were playing at the door, and when they saw her in a hurry, a child in red said, "They all went to Ziyuan to help, and Hu Mama is the only one at home. Please shout loudly." The little girl calmed down and punched the door, "Hu Mama, Hu Mama." When she became anxious, she felt a bit unsure of the importance of the situation. The people inside heard her and responded in a series of voices, "Here, here," but her tone was somewhat unfriendly. With a creak, the door quickly opened. Hu Mama stood at the door and recognized the little girl. "Xiaohong, what's wrong with you? The one in Ruyi building is not working." Xiaohong added with some nervousness, "It seems like she's out of breath." Hu Mama frowned and glanced in the direction of Ziyuan, thinking to herself that Dr. Wang had said that only these few days had passed, but to her surprise, it was today. Coincidentally, it is a day of great joy for the host family. "Hu Mama, hurry up and come with me to take a look." Xiaohong was a bit anxious. "Do you want to, please ask Dr. Wang to also take a look?" Hu Mama nodded and took Xiaohong to the next courtyard to find someone to invite Dr. Wang, and then she went to Ruyi building. The 2 of them arrived at Ruyi building and entered the room, one in front and one behind. Hu Mama saw Su Wanru falling to the ground at a glance. Xiaohong hid behind Hu Mama and said, "It was like this before. I pushed her a few times and there was no response." Hu Mama glared at Xiaohong and walked up to Su Wanru. She reached out to explore her breathing, and sure enough, she was out of breath. "Give her a hand, Grandma," Hu instructed Xiaohong, "move her onto the bed." Xiaohong followed her parents to flee to the capital and saw many people who died of freezing and starvation along the way. But when she entered the Qin mansion, she had no shortage of food and clothing, as long as she took care of Su Wanru. Having been fed and fed for a long time, suddenly seeing a dead person still made me feel a bit scared. For a moment, I dare not step forward. What are you still staring at? Hu Mama urged again, hurry up and grab her feet. Xiao Hong trembled for a moment, but she was obedient. She reached out and grabbed Su Wanru's foot, and the two of them lifted her onto the bed together. Su Wanru has been bedridden for many years and doesn't carry much weight. Hu Mama is used to doing rough work again and easily resettled her. Hurry up and tidy up the medicine residue outside the house, Grandma Hu instructed. I'll ask Madam and Grandpa later. There's still a lot to do here. Xiao Hong let out a sigh, quickly picked up the broom on the ground, and went out to tidy up the broken medicine jar. After entering the mansion, the only thing she did was take care of Su Wanru. At this moment, she is dead. Will the master keep her? Xiao Hong's heart is a bit uneasy. Upon hearing Xiao Hong tidy up her things and go downstairs, Grandma Hu opened the door and quickly opened the wardrobe. She searched under her clothes, shoes, and socks, but found nothing. I searched under the bedside blanket again and found a smooth white jade ring. Looking at the light, it is crystal clear and of excellent quality. Xiao Hong, a man's voice sounded outside, how is Madam? I'm out of breath. Xiao Hong pushed open the door. With a movement of light and shadow, Hu Mama quickly put away the ring. Dr. Wang, Grandma Hu welcomed her up, show me, she should have left. Dr. Wang walked to the bedside, took a breath, touched his pulse, and nodded, it's gone. Have you told Madam yet? Hu Mama was a bit reluctant, today is the day for the eldest son to celebrate. How dare I go and clash with Madam? Dr. Wang turned to Xiao Hong, who shook her head and said, I dare not. Dr. Wang sighed and the doctor's parents thought to him, why don't you tell Manager Shen to give him an idea? Okay, Grandma Hu nodded, then I'll go talk to Xiao Hong. You tidy up, and don't miss her. What needs to be wiped and replaced should also be replaced. Xiao Hong nodded and opened the cabinet, intending to find clean clothes. Upon seeing the situation, Hu Mama immediately went downstairs to find Shen Steward. Dr. Wang stood in front of the bed, looking at Su Wanru's waxy and withered face, and suddenly remembered the stunning sight she had seen before. He is a medical expert who has been familiar with the properties and principles of medicine since childhood, has excellent medical skills, and is also somewhat famous in the capital. Dr. Wang has seen many relatives of high-ranking officials and nobles, but he has never seen someone as beautiful and unfortunate as Su Wanru. The general had white hair and a beautiful woman was getting old. Dr. Wang sighed and took out a handkerchief from his pocket, neatly spreading it out and covering Su Wanru's face. It has been almost 20 years since the first meeting. Every time someone came to the clinic to invite him, whenever he heard that it was the Qin family, Dr. Wang always felt refreshed and quickly went out. But in the next decade or so, he never saw Su Wanru again. Until the end of a summer 5 years ago, someone from the Qin family came to invite him again. Dr. Wang hurried over, only to see Su Wanru, who was half paralyzed on the bed and critically ill. Although I have changed my clothes and bedding, the injuries on my body are shocking. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Wives and Concubines. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Wives and Concubines. The matter of Qin Shofu's favored concubine destroying his wife has also been heard of by Dr. Wang. But who calls his wife Su Wanru, a person from the loyalty in Shun Mansion? The new emperor ascended the throne, and the Zhongshuan Mansion stood in the wrong line. They raided their homes and wiped out their doors, leaving no Su family in the capital. It is said that Chen Chika became the top scorer in his weak crown year. He had planned to marry Su Luoxue, the illegitimate daughter of Su Shilang's family, but was taken over by Su Wanru, a young lady from Zhongshuan Mansion. Chen Chika and Su Luoxue are childhood sweethearts, although they have no matchmaker's words, they have long been deeply intertwined. Su Wanru's grandmother was the legitimate sister of Emperor Taizong of the previous dynasty. She took advantage of the power of the nobles in the palace and forcibly robbed Chinchika. Half a year after their marriage, Chinchika used the excuse that Su Wanru was infertile to marry his beloved Su Luoxue and entered the house. Apart from the obvious etiquette regulations, she is completely a plain wife in private. Su Wanru was already arrogant. How could she tolerate Su Luoxue and Chen Qi to fly together in front of her? Fighting and making a fuss, a year later Su Luoxue had a small fortune, and it is said that it was Su Wanru who did it. Unexpectedly, 6 months later, Su Wanru also had a miscarriage. She took countless medicines and saw countless doctors, but couldn't stop the bleeding. When Dr. Wang first saw Su Wanru, he followed the grandmother of the Zhongshuan mansion to see her for medical treatment in the Qin mansion. She has been sick for half a year, except for her pale complexion, everything else is beautiful. Upon seeing this, Dr. Wang sighed at how nature has manipulated people. Such a beautiful woman, why force herself into someone else's love? Then, the blood stopped, but Su Wanru could no longer conceive. Afterwards, Emperor Suzong of the previous dynasty was critically ill and struggled for 1 or 2 years. However, he also encountered a conflict between the Crown Prince and the King of England, causing chaos in the capital. Under the wall of danger, the gentleman did not stand, and Dr. Wang followed his clan uncle to gather herbs and travel around. He never heard of Su Wanru's situation in the Qin mansion again. Emperor Ingzong succeeded to the throne, and the following year he executed the deposed crown prince, followed by a vigorous purge of the crown prince's party. The Zhongshuan mansion suffered a disaster, robbing the family and destroying the family. Su Wanru was lucky enough to save her life because she had already married and Chinchika was a hero in the position of Emperor Ingzong. But at this point, they have been married for 7 years, and their positions have undergone earth-shattering changes. Chen Qi made a mistake and requested to divorce his wife. Emperor Ingzong agreed to his request, but said that Su Wanru was homeless and asked the Qin family to support her until she passed away. This request to divorce his wife caused a sensation in the capital back then. There were various opinions about the disloyalty of the loyal and obedient government, the malice of Su Wanru, the ruthlessness of Chinchika, and the benevolence and righteousness of Emperor Ingzong. Over the past 20 years, Dr. Wang's clinic has moved several times and has become closer to the west gate of the Qin mansion. He didn't know whether it was because there were many high-ranking officials and people in this area, or because Su Wanru lived here. 5 years ago, he was taken to Ruyi building by the steward of the Qin family. When he saw Su Wanru again, her beauty was like the water in a river, heading east without hesitation, leaving no trace. It is said that after Su Wanru was laid off, Chinchika helped Su Luoxue become his wife. Chinchika's career was straightforward, and within a few years, he became the head minister of the cabinet. He had a beautiful wife and concubine in his family, and his children were married. But Su Wanru was injured and half paralyzed on the bed. Dr. Wang sympathized with her and devoted himself to taking care of her for 5 years. Su Wanru was critically ill and dragged on for a while, but eventually she went. I don't know what it feels like to live under someone else's supervision like this. Dr. Wang felt that Su Wanru was not worth it. Dr. Wang looked around the room. There was a bed, a table, a stool, a cabinet, and nothing else. Dr. Wang felt a bit heartbroken. It was said in the public that Chen Shofu was upright, benevolent, righteous, and upright. But he felt that he was not a good person to treat his wife with hair like this. Dr. Wang's eyes were a bit sore, so he left the room with his hands down and waited in the hallway. Xiaohong turned over her clothes and came out. She wore a golden and lotus-embroidered brocade long gown, and a wisteria grey 8-treasure bunny woven golden ponytail skirt. Although the color may be a bit dull, the texture and workmanship are indescribably meticulous. Xiaohong glanced at Su Wanru on the bed, feeling a bit uneasy. Few people in the Chen family knew that this woman, who was on the brink of death due to illness, was actually the first wife of Qin Shofu. The Yellow River burst its banks, and she fled with her parents into the capital. I have seen many hardships along the way, so I entered the Chen mansion and worked very hard. The butler saw that she was willing to endure hardship and had a strict mouth, so he sent her to serve at Ruyi building. In recent years, Xiaohong has gradually learned that Qin Shofu has a concubine who is said to be still raised in the mansion. After taking care of her for so many days, although Su Wanru didn't say it directly, Xiaohong also guessed something to some extent. Su Wanru's temper is not good, she relies solely on Xiaohong for eating, drinking, and urinating, and occasionally gets angry. When things are good, I will also tell her some old stories about the capital. Xiaohong sighed, put down her clothes, and carried a basin of water out. Hu Mama, who went to report, arrived at Ziyuan and saw Shen Steward from a distance. At this moment, the banquet has not yet begun, and the bride's bridal sedan has not yet arrived. Hu Mama leaned over to him and whispered, "The one in Ruyi building just disappeared. Dr. Wang has gone to see it." Shen, the steward, frowned and spat, "It's really unlucky." Hu Mama felt a bit guilty and looked around. Guests were coming to her door one after another, with red silk hanging everywhere and a bright red double happiness in her eyes. However, she encountered such a terrible situation. "Madam instructed our daughter-in-law to take care of this matter," Grandma Hu said. "No, I have to talk back and forth to avoid the old lady asking about it in the future." "Well," Manager Shen nodded, "I'll go tell Madam, so don't go to the master to look for bad luck about this." Hu Mama nodded and went to the side to wait for an answer. After giving a few orders, Manager Shen went to the inner hall. As she entered the inner hall, the maid Sueji asked, "Manager Shen, are all the things for the banquet ready?" "It's all done, Madam." Manager Shen asked. Sueji pouted towards the western chamber. Shen, the steward, entered the western room and saw his wife Su Luoxue sitting on the couch by the window, looking down at the famous calligraphy. Shen Guanshi, Su Luoxue asked without lifting her head, "Whose family's female relatives have arrived?" "Madam, no," Steward Shen said hesitantly, "it's the one from Ruyi building who's gone. Dr. Wang has gone to see him." Su Luoxue was taken aback and asked, "Does the master know?" Steward Shen shook his head and said, "Let me ask you what you mean first." Su Luoxue thought for a moment and said, "On this joyful day, it's better not to make the master angry. Take 2 people with you, find a coffin, and bury her." "Just bury it in the persimmon forest on the west end," asked the butler Shen. The ancestral tomb of the Chen family is located halfway up the Tsuiwei mountain in the west of the city, with a large persimmon forest on the side, which is also the Chen family's industry. If there is no tomb for the servants at home, the Chen family will give a piece of land in the persimmon forest as a reward. As soon as I came and went, a piece of persimmon forest on the west side of my ancestral tomb became the burial ground for the servants. At the foot of the mountain, don't bury the Chen family's place. Su Luoxue shook her head. Shen nodded and asked about the coffin and tombstone before going down. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Emotional Enemies. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Emotional Enemies. Upon hearing that her long-time rival Su Wanru had died, Su Luoxue twisted her handkerchief with a hint of hatred and contentment on her face. They have been entangled together for almost 25 years. Chen Chika won the top spot at the age of 21, and that year Su Wanru was 15 and she was 16. This year, Su Wanru is also 40 years old. "Madam, Lu Shangshu's wife has passed through Jinyu Hutong," Sueji said. "Lu Hong has already taken people to wait, and we should go out too." Su Luoxue regained her senses, nodded, and then helped Sueji out. Her archenemy finally died today. However, they chose the day when their eldest son passed away, and Su Wanru is really not a good person. A few years ago, the master couldn't even hear Su Wanru's name. In recent years, no one dares to mention the names of past personnel. Today is such a good day, it's better not to tell him. Let's talk about it in a few days, there's still time. Shen, the steward, asked Su Luoxue and took 2 servants to Ruyi building. As soon as I went upstairs, I saw Dr. Wang standing in the corridor. Manager Shen asked, Dr. Wang, why are you still there? Where's your main family? Dr. Wang asked. Originally, it was for the transportation expenses. Steward Shen quickly instructed the servant, Wang Shou, take Dr. Wang to the accounting room to collect the transportation expenses. Don't miss it. Dr. Wang sighed, he was just her doctor. When she was being treated, she was already critically ill early in the morning. No matter how brilliant his medical skills are, they are powerless to turn the tide, and furthermore, she has no intention of survival. Over the years, he should have anticipated that one day would come. The servant stood beside Dr. Wang and reached out to guide the way, Dr. Wang, please come with me. Dr. Wang looked back at her helplessly, wearing a golden red robe and his handkerchief covering his face. Seeing him turn around, Manager Shen ordered people to close the door. Dr. Wang had to follow the servant and stomped downstairs, with heavy footsteps. Why are you wearing such good clothes for her? Shen, the steward, was a bit dissatisfied. Take this clothes to the pawn shop and exchange them for some silver. Look at this material. Xiao Hong whispered, this clothes are very old. Su Wanru has a bad temper, but she has been stuck in bed for the past 2 years and can't move. She really looks a bit pitiful. In addition, she is the original match of Chen Shoufu, and Xiao Hong feels that she is at least worthy of wearing a decent outfit. Little girl just has a soft heart. Shen, the steward, didn't care anymore. Death is like a lamp extinguished, and the quality of clothes has nothing to do with it. She used to be a lady too, Xiao Hong muttered softly. Shen, the steward, snorted coldly and instructed the servant, Dong Chang, quickly pack the sheets. Madam has instructed to bury them at the foot of Tsuiwei Mountain. At the foot of the mountain. Dong Chang hesitated for a moment. That's the chaotic grave mound, isn't it? Shen, the steward, nodded and said, Madam, you're kind-hearted. Let's get a coffin. In that place, if there's no coffin, you can still leave a whole body. If there's a coffin, as soon as it's buried, the coffin will be dug up by someone. Dong Chang nodded and said, it's such a trick. I'm afraid I won't be able to keep this outfit when the time comes. Dang dang dang, Wang Shou escorted Dr. Wang back and pushed the door, only to see Dong Chang packing up his body. Shen Guanshi, Wang Shou asked, is it just buried like this? Shen, the steward, widened his eyes and took a bucket of money from his wallet. He threw it on the table and said, pack it up and bury it right away. Don't be verbose. Wang Shou glanced at Dong Chang, and the two of them responded in unison, their hands and feet becoming more agile. Xiao Hong, Shen, the steward, ordered, please tidy up this place. All her remaining clothes and supplies, as instructed by Madam, will be burned. Yes, Xiao Hong nodded and thought to herself about the few clothes in the wardrobe. The materials were excellent and they didn't wear much. It was a pity to burn them. Shen, the steward, ordered good things and patted the hem of his clothes, as if sweeping away bad luck. He went downstairs and returned to the sesame garden. Wang Shou and Dong Chang wrapped up their bodies, put them on their shoulders, and then went downstairs. Xiao Hong took a bedsheet, tidied up a few clothes, and also left. At the west gate, Dong Chang got into a carriage, and as soon as the king put the body on the carriage, the two of them headed towards the western suburbs. Shen Guanshi returned to the back hall, while Su Luoxue was chatting with Lu Shangshu's wife. Shen, the steward, didn't dare to disturb him. He only talked to Tsueji about the incident and then went out to do some work. Lu Hong heard this and asked Tsueji, is that Ruyi building really gone? Tsueji nodded and said, don't ask anymore, such a good day. Lu Hong quickly shut up, glanced at Su Luoxue, and then went to brew tea. After the death of Ruyi building, Madame can finally feel at ease. Sueji and Lu Hong are the big girls next to Su Luoxue, but they are not even clear about the name of the Ruyi building. I only know that the one in Ruyi building used to be the original match of the master. Married the master for 7 years, and did all the evil things. 15 years ago, the master requested that she be laid off. The meaning of Kugong is that Su Wanru has no family to leave, so let her stay in the Qin mansion. This stay lasts for 15 years. It only took Lu Hong and Sueji 6 or 7 years to enter the Qin mansion. How could they know about the storms of the past 20 years? Chen Chika's eldest son's wedding banquet didn't end until late at night. The guests went to stir up trouble in the bridal chamber, but Chen Chika returned to his study. Master, the guard leader Chen Shun entered the study. The one from Ruyi building is gone. Chen Chi hesitated for a moment and asked, "What did Madame say?" Madame asked Steward Shen to find someone to bury the foot of Tsuewei Mountain. Chen Shun touched a white jade ring and placed it on the table. This was stolen by Madame Hu, who handled the aftermath. Chen Chika took the ring and looked at the candlelight, inside which the words Ruyi were engraved. He extended his index finger to touch those 2 words. Suddenly, like an electric shock, he withdrew his finger and stared blankly at the light, staring blankly for a while. Seeing that he couldn't bear it anymore, Chen Shun said, "Master, Shenguansher has someone bury the grave mound, not even a coffin. Burying a disorderly grave, those without a coffin are luckier than those with a coffin." Chen Chi, accustomed to life and death, was decisive and determined, and had a vengeful attitude. He commented indifferently. Chen Shun didn't dare to speak much after listening. After all, the master once said that this person in Ruyi building has been restraining the old master for several years, causing his house to be restless and suffering unbearable. Even the eldest young master who got married today had his life snatched back from his henchman. The lady was willing to give her a coffin, which is already the end of her kindness and righteousness. Chen Chika looked at the ring for a while, then suddenly looked up and asked Chen Shun, "People say that women have a soft heart. Why is it that as they get older, everyone is so ruthless?" Chen Shun was taken aback. He is still unmarried and doesn't know what a woman's thoughts are. The master asked him this question, so I don't expect his answer, do I? Chen Shun did not answer, and Chen Chi did not continue to ask. Neither of them spoke, and time passed very slowly. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Renyi. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Renyi. Suddenly, a spark jumped from the candle in the study, and Chen Shun mustered up the courage to ask, "Master, won't you go and take a look?" "Forget it," Chen Chi shook his head. Throughout his life, he rarely lowered his head. The big deal of getting married was actually coerced by Su Wanru. For the 7 years after marriage, he lived every day with the determination to commit suicide if he couldn't make it anymore. And she spends her days being jealous, causing trouble, and arguing. Home is like hell on earth, no one is better off than anyone. Fortunately, the world changed hands and her family was wiped out, and his opportunity came as well. However, the new emperor was kind-hearted and pitied her homelessness. He agreed to divorce his wife, but instructed him to take good care of her and live a comfortable life. Chen Chika threw Su Wanru into the backyard, busy with court affairs for 10 years in the blink of an eye. At first, his heart was filled with the pleasure of revenge. Thinking of the hatred and fear in her eyes, Chen Chika could wake up with a smile from his dream. However, as time goes on, the happiness and satisfaction in his heart decrease. And the originally flawless moonlight gradually began to show its shortcomings. Sometimes, Chen Chi even thought that if getting married back then was not forced, perhaps they might still be a resentful couple, fighting and quarreling without being separated. However, Chen Chika's temperament was ruthless and he deeply hated being forced, so he got the opportunity and immediately avenged himself. Their marriage was the intention of the palace, and Chen Qi naturally asked the palace about the divorce this time. Fortunately, he was a high-ranking official of the new emperor, while she was just the daughter of a guilty official. Her family members are either killed or exiled, and who cares about her life or death? As soon as Chen Qi made a compromise, the new emperor agreed to divorce his wife, only stating that she was homeless and allowed to have children. Su Wanru was proud all her life, but now her family is ruined and she has been laid off. Chen Qi believes that letting her live and feel everything is the best revenge. So, he handed Su Wanru over to Su Luoxue and never asked again. 5 years ago, he obtained a piece of land, which happened to be connected to the old Zhongshuan mansion bestowed upon him by the new emperor. On a whim, he merged the two places together to create the current Qin mansion. To the west is the original Zhongshuan prefecture, to the east is a newly built living courtyard, and in the middle is a place for handling affairs and receiving guests, which is more than 3 times larger than the original Zhongshuan prefecture. Su Wanru's affairs have always been under the control of his wife Su Luoxue, and Chen Qi has never paid attention to them. Just after the garden was built, he took a moment to stroll around. The bamboo forest in the northwest is dense, and Chen Qi felt a bit elegant, so he went in and took a look. Who knew that there was Su Wanru living in the Ruyi building behind the bamboo forest? She was plagued by a vicious illness and could no longer stand up. Apart from a pair of eyes, there was no trace of passing on her body. Chen Qi could see that she was haggard and half paralyzed on the foul-smelling bed. For a moment, she moved with compassion and went to see a doctor. All the doctors said they won't live for a year, so prepare for the aftermath earlier. Only Dr. Wang's gaze was burning, and as he left, he asked, "Is she the young lady of the Loyalty Mansion?" Although Chen Qi hated Su Wanru deeply, he couldn't bear to see her so destitute, so he nodded and said yes. In the following 5 years, Dr. Wang was very attentive, and Su Luoxue was also very appropriate. Chen Qi had never seen Su Wanru again. Unexpectedly, after being busy all day and drinking some alcohol, Chen Shun said that she had died and was buried in a chaotic grave at the foot of Tsuewei Mountain. At first sight, Su Wanru was as arrogant as she was, just as beautiful. When they said goodbye, their positions changed, and he became the head consort of Emperor Yingzong, leaving her family in ruins under someone else's protection. Chen Qi was first surprised, then afraid. In the 10 years after Emperor Yingzong ascended the throne, he went from a small head of the Ministry of Revenue to become the head of the cabinet and a high-ranking minister. But over the years, I don't know how many people have been offended. Inside, it is likely to also include the English sect. Emperor Yingzong seized the position of deposed crown prince from his nephew and took over the throne from his elder brother, Emperor Suzong. Suzong and Yingzong were both sons of Emperor Taizong. And Su Wanru's grandmother, Princess Yan, was the legitimate sister of Emperor Taizong. Overall, Emperor Yingzong is still Su Wanru's cousin. Chen Qi requested to divorce his wife and listed countless charges against Su Wanru, which were unfounded, fierce, jealous, and unfilial. Every word and every sentence actually smeared the face of the royal family. Otherwise, Zhongshuan Mansion might have stood in the wrong position. If it weren't for Chen Qi's contribution from the dragon, it wouldn't have been so easy to divorce his wife. In the following 10 years, the Chen family's flowers bloomed in brocade, getting better and better day by day. However, Chen Qi's reputation for being cruel and unjust has been circulating in the capital for a long time. Chen Qi was restrained by Su Wanru for 7 years, and once he avenged him, he didn't care about his reputation. In addition, with the downfall of the Zhongshuan mansion, many members of the Chen family were also eager to get rid of Su Wanru. When he proposed, many people agreed, and what Su Wanru said was even more worthless. After arresting Su Wanru, it took Chen Qi 10 years to realize that he had caused a great disaster. No matter how bad Su Wanru is, it is also the fault of the women in the harem. But he took advantage of his wife's family's downfall and laid a stone in the well. Where is benevolence and righteousness? The grievances he suffered and Su Luoxue suffered were invisible to outsiders, but everyone in the capital saw them. Chen Chika became the first assistant, spoiling his concubine and destroying his wife. So, when he saw Su Wanru in the Ruyi building, who was critically ill, Chen Chika quickly ordered to find a doctor and gave Su Luoxue a fierce lesson. No matter how much they hate Su Wanru, Emperor Yingzong has a will to keep her well in the Qin family. Su Luoxue's eyes turned red and she found someone to place Su Wanru. Chen Chika let out a long sigh, revealing some of Su Luoxue's true nature. At present, although he is proud of himself, the root of the trouble has been planted early on. The suspicion of Emperor Yingzong and the covetousness of others forced Chen Qi to start thinking about a way out. For the next 5 years, Chen Chika arranged both his career and the way out for his family's children. He had 3 sons and 1 daughter with Su Luoxue, and each one was his concern. The eldest son won the Tanhua Award this year, although there were some factors that influenced him, his own abilities were not inferior. Although the second son is 3 years younger, he is more agile. With time, he should be able to shoulder the future of the Qin family. The people outside who were causing trouble in the bridal chamber gradually dispersed. The guests of high position and power gave gifts, drank a few glasses of wine, and bid farewell early in the morning. Only some young people, noisy, can leave now. Chen Shun went out to take a look, and when he returned, Chen Chika had already rested in the study. Candlelight flickered, and Chen Chika suddenly remembered the night of his wedding, which he had also spent in his study. The bangs outside are slow and fast, and it's already 3 shifts. Tomorrow there will be court, and Chen Chika lay in bed, intending to make do for a while. However, after tossing and turning for a while, Chen Chika said, "Chen Shun, let Manager Shen go and collect her bones." "Yes," Chen Shun asked, "where should we bury it?" "Let's bury the Ruyi building," Chen Qi sighed. "That's where she was born." End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Cracks. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Cracks. When Chen Chika requested to divorce his wife, he did indeed hate Su Wanru deeply. But to this day, it has been 15 years in between. He used to think that some of the conflicts in the inner house were all Su Wanru's fault. But now it seems that this may not be the case. Although Su Wanru is the next wife, the Chen family can still afford a pair of coffins and a piece of burial ground. Chen Shun received the order and left the study to find Manager Shen. At this moment, Madame Su Luoxue has also rested inside the house. Li Mama came in to check the candles, sent Lu Hongquizi out, and stopped at the bedside of Madame. "Madam," Li Mama said, "Steward Shen asked someone to bury her on the grave mound, wrap a piece of cloth, and even save the coffin." Su Luoxue smiled coldly behind the bed curtain for a while and asked, "Where's the master?" "The master is resting in the study," Li Mama said. "We still have to go to court early tomorrow. Can we arrange the tea ceremony when the master comes back?" "Well," Su Luoxue nodded, feeling a bit uneasy, and asked, "Does the master know about this?" Li Mama shook her head and said, "No one in the mansion knows." "Tomorrow, madam, please tell the master again." "It's getting late, madam, please rest earlier." There was no movement inside the bed curtain, and Li Mama turned out a few lights and went to the door to guard. Su Luoxue lay down slowly and let out a long sigh of relief. Su Wanru has finally died. Counting it all, she is almost 40 years old this year. Su Luoxue was 1 year older than her and married into the Qin family, but she was 6 months later than her. Su Luoxue comes from a scholarly family and has a childhood sweetheart with Chen Qi, destined to be a divine couple. If it weren't for Su Wanru's fierce pursuit of love, how could Su Luoxue have married so inexplicably, half wife and half concubine for so many years? It was easy for the Su family to exterminate her, but the new emperor stood up and asked them to take good care of her in the Qin family. Chinchika only seeks to divorce his wife and doesn't care where Su Wanru lives. The imperial decree cannot be violated. Su Luoxue took over Su Wanru's affairs and wanted revenge, but had to save her life. The mother-in-law and maidservants under her care were all Su Luoxue's confidants, and their cold words tormented Su Wanru for 10 years. As he was about to achieve great success, Chinchika accidentally entered the Ruyi building behind the bamboo forest. Although he is cruel and ruthless, Su Wanru has no deep hatred towards him. Although she was a resentful spouse, she was also a married couple. She used all means to get him, but now she is only a half-paralyzed patient. Apart from a pair of eyes, Su Wanru has no trace of her past beauty. Chin-Chi saw it and was naturally shocked. And in that eye, there was no more arrogance and stubbornness from the past, calm, like the autumn sky, clear and bright. Afterwards, Su Luoxue replaced Su Wanru's servant with a diet and medicine, and no longer treated her harshly. However, Su Luoxue is no longer flawless in Chinchika's heart. He has been floating in the sea of officialdom for decades, and finally climbed to the peak of being a minister, becoming the head minister of the cabinet. How could he not see through Su Luoxue's methods? Over the years, it's only his fault for hating Su Wanru so much that he can't see through the person beside his pillow with such a heart. Chin-Chi is also uncertain whether Su Luoxue was forced into this by Su Wanru or was born like this. He always thought that Su Luoxue was gentle and weak, but he didn't want her mind to be focused on invisible places. However, after requesting to divorce his wife, Chinchika helped Su Luoxue become his wife. When she found her heart hard, her eldest son was almost 13 years old. The edict of Lady Epine had already been in Su Luoxue's hands for a long time. In the eyes of outsiders, they are a harmonious couple, with a happy family and filial children. Chinchika also knows that Su Luoxue deeply loves herself and is in line with common sense in her way of life. Being the wife of the Qin family is very suitable. However, there was still a cloud of anger in his heart. Su Wanru used her family's influence to force herself to marry her, and for 7 years, Chin-Chi suffered day and night. But now it seems that Su Luoxue, wearing a mask, has also deceived herself for over a decade. His marriage, his love, and even this person, in the end, are just spoils of war for these women. Understood, Chen-Chi can change the appearance of Lu Xiaohui in the past, no longer taboo about romance, and also have several concubines in the family. One by one, all as beautiful as peaches and plums, inheriting the same lineage as Su Wanru, who was once the most stunning in the capital. Outsiders all think that Chen Shoufu is old, and his virtuous wife is old and beautiful, which is why he is moved by his love for beauty. Upon learning this, the new emperor also bestowed several beauties upon him. For a while, the 12 beauties of the Qin family also became the epitome of the wandering children's memories day and night in the community. Chen-Chi is not a lecherous person, but as a highly respected minister, his achievements are inevitably overshadowed. It is not a matter of a day or two for the new emperor to be wary of him. Besides, Su Luoxue wants to be a virtuous wife, and Chen-Chi naturally wants to fulfill her. Chen-Chika hated Su Wanru deeply, but when he saw her in the Ruyi building, he felt anxious and didn't want to admit his cowardice or his inferiority. When Su Wanru forced her to marry, he didn't have the courage to resist the decree. When the Su family came to an end, he also fell into a trap and begged for divorce. The bangs outside are slow and fast, it's already 4 o'clock. Chen Shun entered the room and softly called out to Chinchika, "Master, it's 4 o'clock." Chen-Chi let out a sigh, got up to wash up, put on his court uniform, and he saw the white jade ring on the table again. By divine intervention, Chinchika took the ring and placed it on the index finger of his left hand. Just like tailoring it to him, it's not inferior at all. Chinchika was taken aback by the fact that the ring had a smooth surface and was indeed a man's item. The words "Ruyi" were engraved inside, perhaps she left it for him. He was afraid in his heart, but unwilling to take it. As he played with the ring, Chen Shun said, "Master, I did as you instructed." Steward Shen collected the bones and buried them in the Ruyi building. Chinchika didn't answer, wearing a ring, he went to court instead. Her nickname is Ruyi, and apart from him, no one in this world remembers her. After he left early morning and returned home, he went to sit in the main house of Ziyuan. Su Luoxue was busy changing his clothes, and at a glance, she also saw the ring in his hand. However, Su Luoxue also knew that there were some things that were not worth her talking about. "Master," Su Luoxue said, "Qi Er and his wife will arrive in a while. Please sit down first, Lu Hong. Bring a bowl of fish soup to the master." She has been with Chinchika for 21 years and is also a childhood sweetheart, so her preference for him is naturally clear. Chinchika became the first assistant, and Su Luoxue also knew a few dirty things he did. In recent years, Chinchika has taken in many concubines. Su Luoxue also vaguely knew that she had some connection with Su Wanru from Ruyi building. However, the master pretended not to know, and she was too happy not to mention it. He took his concubine, and she also made good arrangements. Su Luoxue wouldn't do anything jealous of her. She has a high destiny, 3 men and 1 woman under her knees, and her eldest son is also talented. She is destined to enjoy happiness in the future, so there is no need to worry about these things. However, her love for him gradually faded from her heart. All that remains is the years of family affection, as well as their memories of falling in love at first sight. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Children. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Children. In the future, Su Luoxue can rely on her children. Chen Qi, the eldest son, was a dragon and phoenix among the people. At the age of 18, he passed the imperial examination and was appointed by the emperor to explore the flowers. He worked as a 7th-grade editor in the Hanlin Academy. Although not of high rank, being able to draft imperial edicts, compile historical books, attend banquets and lectures, and later enter the cabinet to pay homage to the prime minister is invaluable. The second son Chen Yu and the third son Chen Jin are still studying at the Guozijian. In the next 3 to 4 years, they will definitely follow in the footsteps of their father and brother to enter politics, and then get married and have children. And her youngest daughter will also be engaged and married, with a beautiful scenery. As for the beautiful concubine on the 12th floor, she only gave some money to settle the matter. Su Luoxue can accommodate those who have children and are willing to stay. Thinking of the seemingly distant past 5 years, Su Luoxue couldn't help but feel a bit resentful towards Chinchika. Just, for the sake of Su Wanru, why is this so? In the master's heart, there has always been only disgust and hatred towards Su Wanru. How could he hate himself because of her suffering? I think it's just disappointment with her. Su Luoxue knew that this crack was there, and their relationship would no longer be the same as before. Fortunately, she now has everything, and without her husband's affection, she is nothing. "Madam, the master's fish soup is here," Lu Hong brought in the food box, and Su Luoxue took the bowl and placed it in front of Chinchika. I don't know why, Chinchika only uses white porcelain. The tea utensils and tableware at home are all white porcelain without any color or pattern, as thin as ice and snow. When Su Luoxue was young, he often personally cooked fish soup for him. Steamed the sea base, removed the thorns, made shiitake mushrooms, soaked ham, cut shredded bamboo shoots, stir-fried in lard, stir-fried until fragrant, then added clear soup. Finally, thicken the sauce and bring out the pot, with a perfect combination of color, aroma, and flavor. Chen Qi doesn't like sweet dim sum. He likes fish soup very much. Every day when I go home to court and drink tea, I have to eat a fish soup. Chinchika was eating fish soup when Su Luoxue spoke up, "Master, Su Wanru died yesterday. I asked Steward Shen to take her to the western suburbs for burial." Well, Chenchika continued to eat fish soup without saying a word. Master, Su Luoxue thought of these 5 years of neglect, feeling a little uncomfortable in her heart. As a couple, we used to say everything. But for such a person, is it worth it? How did she treat me back then? Master doesn't know. As she spoke, there was a bit of choking in her words, and tears welled up in her eyes. I know. Chenchika put down his bowl and gave Su Luoxue a cold glance. Su Luoxue dared not say anything more, hesitated for a moment, and then said, Cheer and the others are coming soon. Master, the bride is afraid of strangers. You can say a few words later, don't scare her without saying a word. It's okay if she doesn't give orders, but when she said this, Chenchika's heart became even more frustrated. Chenchi, the eldest son, was outstanding in his studies. After passing the imperial examination, he became even more outstanding in the capital. Everyone is watching him, looking for such a son. Law. Chenchi is a powerful minister and naturally knows that someone wants to cling to him. Being in the officialdom, Chenchi is also very aware that in the future, when his son enters the officialdom, he will have a good father. Law to help and a good wife to take care of the household chores, which will enable Chenchi to gain wings like a tiger. In-laws should have a family of poetry and literature, while wives should be knowledgeable and rational. Chenchika had planned early on to choose a talented and attractive wife from several of his close colleagues. Who knew that Su Luoxue insisted on appointing a cousin from her uncle's family for her son? Su Luoxue's family is not bad. Her father, Su Changji, was a servant of the Ministry of Rites in the previous dynasty, but her brothers were becoming more and more disrespectful. The Su family did not have any children who went to school or entered politics, relying solely on the support of their ancestors and barely managed to become a 6th or 7th grade official. By now, they have long declined. If it weren't for an uncle who served as the head assistant and Su Luoxue's frequent financial support, the Su family in the capital would have lost even their dignity. Unfortunately, it was such a family that Su Luoxue even chose her younger brother Su Jian's youngest daughter as their daughter. In law for the eldest son of the dragon and phoenix among them. Chenchi naturally wouldn't agree to a marriage like this. Among those 3 brothers, Su Jian is considered the best one, barely holding a position as a clerk in the Ministry of Revenue. The other 2 brothers, one who loves prostitution and the other who loves gambling, have ruined their ancestral business. How can Chenchi appreciate such a family? He wielded immense power in the cabinet, relying not only on his former talents. Networking, skills, scheming, decisiveness, and luck are all indispensable. If Chenchi marries Su Jian's daughter, it will not only be unhelpful, but also provoke such a family in the future, pulling him back everywhere. He was young and talented, and his father, teacher, and father-in-law helped him. However, his child had to suffer such a big loss. Chenchi is a shrewd person, how can he be willing to do it? Su Luoxue cried and fussed a few times, but also found that Chenchi was determined by the weight. Since that's the case, hard won't make soft. Su Luoxue found Su Yun, the youngest daughter of Su Jian, who lives in the Qin mansion. She eats, dresses, lives, and travels like the daughters of the Qin family. She can see 3 cousins every day, including Chenchi. At the end of last year, Chenchika was worried about the start of spring and instructed him to study hard in his study to prepare for the exam. Su Yun didn't go home for the spring festival. Instead, she stayed at her aunt's house and occasionally sent tea and dim sum to see Chenchi in her study. Lone men and women lived together in a room, talking and laughing without any taboos. Chenchika was busy in the court with all his feet in the air. Where did he know about his family's affairs? There were many visitors during the new year, and once, the wife of Lu Guchan, the minister of rites, visited. I brought a high-quality Duan inkstone and said I wanted to give it to Chenchi. In theory, Su Luoxue should have called Chenchi over, but she happened to take Mrs. Lu to Chenchi's study. As soon as I arrived at the door of the study, I saw Chen-Chi supporting Su-Yun's waist, her ears and hair rubbing against each other, and there was not even a maid or servant nearby. Mrs. Lu blushed on the spot, and she also had other opinions about this talented person in her heart. Chen-Chi explained that his cousin was feeling unwell and almost fainted, so he reached out to help her. Su Luoxue was furious and wanted to drive Su-Yun home, saying that she was shameless and seduced her cousin. Chen-Chi felt that it was not her cousin who was at fault. She acted alone and should not ruin her reputation just because of herself. So, Chen-Chi begged Su Luoxue to marry Su-Yun. Su Luoxue pretended to be very difficult, only saying that Chen-Chi would not agree. Mrs. Lu became a ready-made matchmaker and sought Chen-Chi on behalf of Chen-Chi and Su-Yun. At this point, if we don't agree to this marriage, Chen-Chi's reputation will be completely ruined in the future. Chen-Chi was helpless and knew in his heart that it was mostly Su Luoxue's plan. Originally, he thought the Su family was in ruins, and Su-Yun was not at fault. But in this way, Chen-Chi feels that Su-Yun has also made mistakes. Ignoring the male and female defenses before marriage, they chatted and laughed alone in the man's study. Looking at Chen-Chi's protection, Chen-Chi can see himself in Su Luoxue from his eldest son and Su-Yun. One is an ignorant and passionate prey, and the other is a cunning hunter. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Rings. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Rings. At the beginning of spring, Chen-Chi lit a bouquet, and Su Luoxue began preparing for her autumn wedding. The Su family became proud and let out a few words in front of Chen-Chi. The private acceptance of this study has been a trap for the Su family from beginning to end. The mastermind is Su Luoxue, and the one who was arrested is their eldest son Chen-Chi. Poor Chen-Chi knows nothing and feels responsible. His cousin Su-Yun is so gentle and weak. Chen-Chi naturally knew that this marriage could not be changed anymore. In the future, his eldest son would drag along dozens of people from the Su family. Whoever made a mistake would have to go and make up for it. There is no other career path to speak of. In this way, Chen-Chi turned his gaze to the other two children. Chen Yu, the second son, was pragmatic and shrewd. Although he did not study as hard as his elder brother, he was very suitable for an official position. Chen-Chi planned to release his eldest son to another city for further training and become a magistrate, benefiting the people of the region. Chen-Chi has left the capital, and the affairs of the Su family can also be thoroughly handled by the Chen family. As for his network resources in the capital, all of them will be handed over to his second son. In the future, if he cannot become the first assistant, he can also become a second or third grade official to take care of the Chen family for him. Chen Yu is shrewd and capable, and may not necessarily make it to the top 3 in the academic examination. However, the story of such a talented and beautiful person in the backyard cannot be concealed from his eyes. Chen Yu and his father Chen-Chi have a surprisingly consistent attitude towards the Su family, being polite and distant, and never taking responsibility for anything. With him around, Chen-Chi feels that the Chen family can still thrive for decades in the future. Lu Hong took the bowl of fish soup, and Chen Yu came with his younger brother and sister. Father, mother, Chen Yu sat down beside her. Hasn't my brother and sister-in-law come over yet? Chen-Chi glanced at his son several times, and since his eldest son arranged a marriage with the Su family, he has been paying attention to this kid. People and animals are harmless everywhere, and they don't speak or act aggressively, but in private, they are smarter than anyone else. I've already stood up, I should be coming over soon. Su Luoxue glanced at her third son and took her youngest daughter Chen Ying into her arms. The eldest son Chen-Chi is 18, the second son Chen Yu is 15, the third son Chen Jin is 11, and the youngest daughter Chen Ying is only 9 years old. Ying's sister, Su Luoxue instructed, when you see Yun's sister later, remember to call her sister-in-law. She's married to your older brother, so you can't call her sister anymore. Ying knows, Chen Ying said, the maids in the room have all said that it's called, getting married. Su Luoxue was amused by her and said, "Does Ying's sister know what it means to be in love?" "I know," Chen Ying said, "to be close and close is to not let the fat and water flow into outsiders' fields." Su Luoxue was taken aback for a moment, her face darkened, and she asked, "Who told you that?" "Mother," Chen Yu sneered, "Ying's sister is still young, she knows what kind of marriage is." Su Luoxue glanced at her son and knew that this was mostly what Chen Yu said. However, before she could scold her, Chen Qi confidently brought his bride Su Yun over. "Father, mother, please have some tea." Chen Qi knelt down with Su Yun, and Li Mama also held the tea and handed it to them. Su Luoxue took the bride's tea and secretly glanced at Chen Qika. Seeing him calmly taking Su Yun's tea, she breathed a sigh of relief in her heart. She thought that the master would definitely make a fuss about this marriage. Unexpectedly, when Mrs. Lu mentioned the matchmaker, he readily agreed. Su Luoxue didn't know why Chen Qika suddenly became so talkative. In fact, Chen Qika also knows that it is not a problem for all three sons to hold official positions in the capital, but for those above the 4th grade, only one can be left. In order to prevent gang formation, the court allowed only one high-ranking official of the same lineage and clan, with a rank of 4 or above, to be left in the capital. If Chen Qi stays in the capital, Chen Yu and Chen Jin must go to a place. After Su Luoxue's turmoil, Chen Qi changed his successor. For him, it's actually a good thing. Although the eldest son studies hard, he is a simple person who finds it difficult to make a difference in the officialdom. Chen Qika has always been worried that his eldest son's personality and officialdom are not right. Now that his eldest son has married the daughter of the Su family, he has made up his mind to teach his second son how to read well. 3 years later, he will let him enter the officialdom to shoulder the heavy responsibility of taking care of the whole family for his eldest son. Su Luoxue didn't know Chen Qika's plan. When she saw him drinking tea from the bride, she let out a dry cough and gestured for him to say a few good words to listen to. Chen Qika took a sip of tea and said to the bride, "Yin-yang, you can follow madam to cut clothes and embroider flowers in the future. You have a weak body, so you don't have to worry about family affairs and Ying's sister's affairs." Su Yun responded weakly and boneless, while Chen Qi didn't rest assured and helped his wife up. Su Yun's body is indeed not very strong. Last time in his study, I almost fainted. If it weren't for him helping me in time, my head would have been knocked open early on. Su Luoxue has a clear understanding that her mother-in-law is the one who makes trouble for her, while her father-in-law is the one who makes trouble for her. However, the incident of Su Yun entering the door was indeed somewhat disrespectful. Su Yun is the eldest son's daughter-in-law and will always be her turn in the future when it comes to hosting the feedbacks. After having tea, everyone bid farewell and left one after another. Su Luoxue glanced at the ring in Chen Qika's hand, which was as warm and white as sheep fat, and she didn't know which aunt had given it to, so willing to invest so much. Chen Qika sat for a while and then went back to his study to do some work. The marriage was successfully completed, and Su Luoxue breathed a sigh of relief, finally achieving her wish. Su Wanru passed away yesterday, and their eldest son also married his uncle's cousin. It's truly a double celebration. Chen Qika returned to his study and sat for a while before planning to visit Ruyi Building. The entire Chen family knew why Ruyi Building was called Ruyi Building, but he was the only one left. Chen Shun accompanied Chen Qika and walked through the bamboo forest to the courtyard of Ruyi Building. This building was originally the Itsue building of the Zhongshuan mansion, but it was only because the wife of the Zhongshuan Marquis had a seizure while strolling around the garden and gave birth to twin dragons and phoenixes here, that the building was renamed Ruyi. Now, everyone has gone, but the name of this building still calls Ruyi. The soil moved in the yard and 2 new osmanthus trees were planted. At this moment, it is September, and the newly moved osmanthus can bloom all over the courtyard with fragrance. Chen Shun pointed to the osmanthus on the east side and said, Steward Shen has collected the bones, and the coffin is buried below here. Chinchika nodded and stood in front of the osmanthus tree, touching the white jade ring on his left hand. Suddenly, the osmanthus tree moved and there was no wind or anyone. Qin Shun was taken aback and quickly looked around. Qin Chi can make many enemies, not just assassins entering the mansion. Chinchika glanced at the ring and asked, "Did you leave it for me?" "I'll take it, you go." Su Wanru died yesterday, but she didn't know she had passed away. Her soul stayed in the Ruyi building, but she didn't see anyone coming. At this moment, when I met Chinchika, I felt resentment in my heart. She loved him so much back then, but ended up like this. No matter how she cursed, Chinchi couldn't hear her anymore. Gradually, even herself became trapped in the white jade ring. How could she possibly have left this ring for him? What else is there between them besides her wishful thinking? End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Imprisonment. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Imprisonment. Chinchika was staring blankly at the osmanthus tree, but his second son Chinyu came over. "Father," Chinyu said, "Mother asked me to ask you, what would you like for lunch?" "Don't be like your brother," Chinchi said inexplicably, and Chinyu understood. "Father," Chinyu nodded, "don't worry, they can't deceive me." Chinchika knew that Chinyu also saw the intentions of the Su family. The whole family is not striving for self-improvement, but they are doing everything in their power to rely on the Qin family. He doesn't mind Su Luoxue subsidizing his family, but he doesn't want the Su family to act recklessly outside. In the end, the bad reputation fell on the Qin family, and no matter how careful he was, it was in vain. There are too many people who want to kill him in his position as the head assistant. If he was imprisoned for his own wrongdoing, Qin Chi would also admit it, but if he was dragged down by someone, Qin Chi would not be willing to accept it. Chinchika thought for a moment and then instructed Chinyu, "Your sister should listen to you, be careful, don't let them take advantage." "Well," Chinyu responded, glanced at the newly planted osmanthus tree in the yard, and asked, "Have you ever loved her?" Chinchi shook his head and said, "No love." Upon hearing these words, Su Wanru in the ring suddenly burst into tears. Her love and hate are dispensable to Chinchika. She went to great lengths to marry him, but in the end, it was just nothing. She regrets this kind of life very much. Su Wanru was trapped inside a white jade ring and spent another 3 years in the Qin mansion. Sometimes, I followed Chinchika to court, sometimes I followed him to the House of 12 Beauties, and sometimes I went to the Ziyuan where Su Luoxue lived. In recent years, the relationship between Su Luoxue and Chinchika has become increasingly respectful, like ice. Back then, in front of Su Wanru, they didn't know how much love they had, nor how much affection they had. Now, Chinchika has seen through Su Luoxue's thoughts, and the two have become the most ordinary couple in the mortal world. Despite conflicts, they still live together. Su Wanru's wish was fulfilled, but she was not very happy. Back then, she went to great lengths to destroy their relationship, but now they are really unfamiliar, but Su Wanru feels bored. She doesn't like Chinchi anymore. Whether they are good or not has nothing to do with her. In the autumn of the 3rd year, one day when Chinchika was going to court, some officials came forward, saying that Chinchika was corrupt, colluding with eunuchs, and attempting to rebel. Each accusation became heavier and heavier, and Chinchi remained stunned on the spot. Everyone is engaged in corruption and lawlessness, and he naturally does it too, but it must not reach the point of rebellion. Chinchika has done many things for his own position, such as using power for personal gain and bullying others, but none of them have anything to do with rebellion. The second assistant to the cabinet, Zhu Xiu, came forward and said that Chinchi could collude with eunuchs from the Imperial Household Department to steal the nanma used by the Shinmu factory to build the palace. When the Qin mansion was expanded, the regulations within the mansion exceeded the duties of officials everywhere. It is also said that Chinchika's eldest son used his power for personal gain, took advantage of his power, privately bought and sold grain, grass, salt, and other resources, and secretly colluded with the Tatars in the Xuanfu area. Speaking, Zhu Xiyu presented a lot of evidence of collusion with the enemy, including letter records, personal evidence, and physical evidence. Emperor Yingzong had just suffered a defeat at the border when he heard that Qin Chika had colluded with the enemy to rebel. He immediately became furious. Qin Chika and his son were detained in the prison of Dali Temple, and the imperial guards were sent to investigate the Qin mansion. Qin Chi knew that during the expansion of the Qin mansion, he did indeed borrow some nanmo from the Shinmu factory through communication with the eunuch of the imperial household department. There are many people who do this, and when it comes to calculating, it's just using power for personal gain, not exceeding the limit. But what he didn't know was that when the Qin mansion was expanded, it laid the foundation for today's disaster. On the west side of Qin mansion, it was originally the former site of the former Zhongshuan mansion. Zhongshuan Duke Su Kun was a founding hero, and Emperor Taizu bestowed upon him the mansion of a former prince. The pavilions and towers inside were naturally the standard of a prince. Qin Chi was oppressed by the Su family and had no choice but to marry Su Wanru. He naturally had feelings for the loyalty and obedience of the Su family. When the new emperor ascended the throne, the people of Zhongshuan mansion stood in a wrong position, and the whole family was destroyed, leaving a daughter named Su Wanru in the Qin family. Qin Chika took the opportunity to request a divorce and helped Su Luoxue become his wife. The people of Zhongshuan prefecture died, sold, exiled, and the courtyard was empty for several years. Later, Qin Chika became the first assistant, full of energy and a strong attachment to the Zhongshuan mansion, so he begged Emperor Yingzong to obtain this mansion. When expanding, it was also extremely luxurious, without considering the cost of labor. He comes from the Ministry of Revenue and is not clear about whether to exceed the quota or not. After all, in Qin Chika's eyes, there is no difference between 3 steps and 5 steps. But in the eyes of the officials, these are just excessive restrictions. The theft of nanmo from the Shinmu factory and the excessive production of the mansion are not fatal mistakes. If Emperor Yingzong still likes Qin Chika, both of these things can be turned into small things and small things into nothing. Unfortunately, he has served as the head minister of the cabinet in the court for so long, and the tolerance of Emperor Yingzong towards him has reached its limit. Someone is stirring up trouble again, so it's natural that small things get bigger and big things get rebellious. What truly crushed Qin Chika was the actions of his eldest son, or rather, the actions of the Su family. The Su family borrowed Qin Chi's name and opened a rice shop and silk shop by the canal. It is difficult to make money by doing business honestly, so someone pointed out a way for the Su family to buy and sell salt at the Xian mansion and hoard grain and grass. The court prohibited private salt, and salt merchants needed to buy salt from the salt administration before they could sell it. Due to the lack of food and forage in the border areas, someone came up with an idea to distribute salt to the border officials. If someone transports food and supplies to the border, they can obtain salt from the army and then return to the mainland to sell salt. The Su family borrowed the name of Qin Shofu to maliciously raise and suppress grain prices. They obtained salt imports and even sold them at high prices, creating a chaotic border salt import system. Once, due to this incident, the guard office of Xuanfu was in short supply of food and almost went into a mutiny in winter. Zhu Xiyu listed the evidence, and Qin Chi knew that he had no way out, and the path of the Qin family was almost at the end. He is always cautious and cautious throughout his life, afraid of making a mistake and causing harm to the whole family. Who knows, the Su family is still clinging to Qin Chi, causing trouble for their entire family. Qin Chi has also heard of the Su family opening a rice shop under the name of the Qin family. But he thought that with just a few promiscuous sons from the Su family, nothing could be achieved. In a few days, we will lose money and close our doors. Who knew that they had committed such a great evil act, dragging the Qin family into the abyss of colluding with the enemy and plotting rebellion in one breath? Qin Chika and his son were imprisoned, convicted, and sentenced to execution in the autumn of the following year. Chen Chika died of illness, his eldest son Chen Qi committed suicide, and his second son Chen Yu was punished but also died of illness. Some people in the court sympathized with the father and son of the Chen family and rescued their third son Chen Jin from prison. However, as soon as he came out, he drowned in the moat. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Revenge. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Revenge. The Chen family was raided, women and children were sold, and distant relatives were all exiled. Although the Su family dragged down the Chen family, it didn't cause much damage. After all, the name of the store has always been hanging on the Chen family. In September, the Chen mansion, which had been sealed off for half a year, opened its doors. It is said that it was bought by a high-ranking official in the capital. However, no one knows who actually bought this house. I only heard that in mid-September, a man in his 40s came to the Chen mansion once with a servant. Someone knows this man, who is said to be the newly appointed head assistant Zhu Shiyu. Chen Qi fell so badly, and this pit is naturally the result of Zhu Shiyu's years of hard work. He sent people to modify the construction plan of the Chen mansion, and also sent people to teach the Su family how to buy and sell salt. Collect good evidence, and as soon as the time came, Chen Chika was charged with colluding with the enemy, treason, and rebellion beyond control. The charge of corruption and lawlessness is sufficient for dealing with ordinary officials, but it is not fatal for dealing with Chen Chika. Zhu Shiyu waited for a long time, and only when Emperor Yingzong was dissatisfied with Chen Qi did he kill him with one blow. And this revenge, he waited for almost 20 years. Zhu Shiyu entered Ruyi building and poured 3 cups of her favorite drink, autumn dew white, under the osmanthus tree in the east. She also drank a few cups herself. The servants stood far away, unsure of what he had said. They saw him crying and laughing, struggling alone for a long time. Ruyi, Zhu Shiyu lifted his cup and leaned against the osmanthus tree. I told you earlier to wait for me, but you insist on marrying such a person. He's no better than me. As he spoke, Zhu Shiyu's tone became sharp. The servants in the distance glanced at him, all bowing their heads and shrinking their shoulders, and no one dared to step forward. Zhu Shiyu lowered his head and touched the ring on his hand, his face full of tenderness. You still keep this ring. Sure enough, you still care about me, right? Su Wanru, who was trapped in the ring, was taken aback. She couldn't remember who the ring really belonged to. Is it something she gave to Chen Chika or something from her father and brother that got mixed into her jewelry? I didn't expect it to be from him. Zhu Shiyu touched the ring for a while, drank a few more glasses of wine, cried and made a fuss for a while, and then left with his servant. Su Wanru stayed downstairs at Ruyi, her heart filled with shock. Cousin Zhu Shiyu actually likes her, seems to still like her very much. Why, she knows nothing about it. Su Kuan, the grandfather of Su Wanru, was a founding hero. After Emperor Taizu ascended the throne, Su Kuan became a loyal and obedient duke. After Su Kuan was granted the title, he married Princess Yan, the daughter of Emperor Taizu. Princess Yan and Emperor Taizong were siblings of the same mother, so after Emperor Taizong succeeded to the throne, the favor of the Su family was even greater than before. Su Kuan originally had 2 sons, but his title was intended for the children of the Princess of Yan. Therefore, the position of the crown prince has been vacant, waiting for the Princess of Yan to have a son. A few years later, Duke Zhongshuan suddenly died suddenly. Some people in the capital said that he was the master of great achievements, so he was given poisoned wine. Some people also say that Zhongshuan Gong was flirting with flowers and grass, which angered the Princess of Yan. She filed a lawsuit in front of Emperor Taizong, so Duke Zhongshuan died inexplicably. Fortunately, the Princess of Yan had already given birth to a son, Su Zheng. Emperor Taizong immediately conferred the title of Loyal Marquis on Su Zheng, who was in his infancy. Princess Yan took Su Zheng and a group of children born to concubines to become a family in the Zhongshuan mansion. A loving mother often defeats her children, referring to Princess Yan and Su Zheng. Father Su Kuan is a towering military general, brave and intelligent, with great prestige in the military. But apart from eating, drinking, and playing, his son Su Jing knew nothing, and horseback riding and archery were even more difficult. Fortunately, Su Jing had a princess mother who also possessed the military achievements of her father. Emperor Taizong pitied his nephew for not having a father, treating him even better than an ordinary prince. So, Su Zheng's life was extremely carefree and smooth. When it was time for engagement at the age of 17 or 18, the Princess of Yan wanted to marry him as a princess. Taking advantage of the east wind of Princess Chang, I elevated my title to Duke Zhongshuan. After all, the Princess of Yan was the sisters of a mother's compatriot of Emperor Taizong. Emperor Taizong naturally agreed to such a request. In addition, Su Zheng is also a playboy from the capital and lacks much ability. Having given birth to the princess, he happened to be obedient and not doing anything, enjoying a lifetime of wealth and honor. Therefore, Emperor Taizong took the opportunity of the Empress Dowager's birthday and allowed a 5th grade or higher destined woman to bring her daughter to the palace to celebrate. Firstly, select a queen for the princes, and secondly, let Princess Zhaoyang meet Su Zheng. Who knew that Su Zheng wandered around the imperial garden and immediately fell in love with Zhu Nianxin, the daughter of Zhu Liyan, a doctor in the Ministry of Works. This Zhu Nianxin is extremely beautiful, but she is somewhat enchanting. It is widely rumored in the capital that she is beautiful, and there are also many princes interested in her, but no one dares to make Zhu Nianxin the legitimate consort. Marrying such a legitimate consort, aside from anything else, a lecherous hat cannot escape. Moreover, her father Zhu Liyan has little influence, military power and connections, and has nothing. I heard that my temper is still a bit too straightforward. In addition, Zhu Nianxin's appearance is too beautiful and alluring, not only uncomfortable to live in, but also somewhat ominous. At that time, the third prince, who later became Emperor Suzong, fell in love with Zhu Nianxin and wanted to marry her as his concubine. The third prince was born to Empress Deng, and according to his legitimate and illegitimate parents, he will undoubtedly hold the position of emperor in the future. Empress Deng has also been angry with the third prince several times for the sake of Zhu Nianxin. But think again, when he ascends to the throne and becomes emperor, there will be no kind of beauty in the palace. It's better to give him a stunning appearance early in the morning, so that he can calm down and be obedient and not cause trouble. So, on the Empress Dowager's birthday, the young ladies in the capital were playing in the imperial garden, and the third prince and Su Zheng, a pair of cousin brothers, stormed into the garden. According to the plan, Su Zheng went to see Princess Zhaoyang, while the third prince went to see Zhu Nianxin. Unexpectedly, Su Zheng fell in love with Zhu Nianxin at first sight. After returning home, he rolled on the ground and threatened his mother with a hunger strike, insisting on marrying her to become the loyal and obedient Marquis's wife. The Princess of Yan had no choice but to agree to Su Zheng's request and asked someone to come and propose marriage. Zhu Nianxin is cowardly and not suitable for entering the palace to compete for favor. Her father Zhu Liyan believes that it is better to marry the loyal and obedient Marquis. Being a legitimate wife and a loyal and obedient Marquis's wife with a noble status is far better than being involved in royal struggles. Zhu Nianxin is beautiful, but in future palace battles, it will depend not only on the strength of outsiders, but also on her own strategic methods. Zhu Nianxin has neither of them, and when her color fades and her love relaxes, she is afraid that the outcome will not be too good. Moreover, although the third prince likes Zhu Nianxin, he is afraid of Emperor Taizong, fearing that his father may think he is a lecherous person. So I dare not argue with reason about Zhu Nianxin's matter. As soon as he stepped back, Su Zheng became a golden turtle son-in-law who stood out among the crowd. The young Marquis loved him so much that he didn't hesitate to marry anyone else. Empress Deng did not want the third prince to have any relationship with Zhu Nianxin, so she pushed the boat and helped Su Zheng, and suggested marriage to him and Zhu Nianxin. Su Jing married Zhu Nianxin as he wished, but the third prince planted a thorn in his heart. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Heartbreak. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Heartbreak. Apart from her stunning beauty, Zhu Nianxin has no other strengths. I have a weak personality and am even more afraid of my hands and feet when doing things, which is not the material of the Marquis's wife. Princess Yan once again resented her for ruining Princess Su Jingshang's opportunity and blocking his path to becoming a loyal and obedient duke, and her disgust grew even stronger in her heart. No matter what Zhu Nianxin does, the Princess of Yan can find reasons to humiliate her. With such a powerful mother-in-law, Zhu Nianxin's life in Zhongshuan Mansion was not easy. Fortunately, Su Jing is an excellent representative with a strong sense of color, and he always upholds Zhu Nianxin, which exacerbates the conflict between her and the Princess of Yan. Fortunately, Zhu Nianxin's stomach was still in good condition, and after half a year in the mansion, she became pregnant. Pregnant in October, giving birth to a pair of dragon and phoenix twins. The eldest daughter is called Ruyi, and the eldest son is called Zhu Jun. But when she was pregnant, Su Jing followed a group of playboys out to eat flower wine and fell in love with a geisha named Song Hongzhuang, who was not selling herself. He bought Song Hongzhuang and secretly raised her outside. Firstly, it was because the Princess of Yan deeply hated taking concubines. Secondly, Song Hongzhuang's background was too low, and Su Jing dared not bring her back to the Zhongshuan Mansion. When Zhu Nianxin was 5 or 6 months old, the news of Song Hongzhuang spread in the Zhongshuan Mansion. Zhu Nianxin avoided her mother-in-law all day long, and her heart was filled with sorrow and anger. When he got married, Su Jing swore that he would never take a concubine and focus on loving her alone. Zhu Nianxin believed his words and endured any embarrassment the Princess of Yan gave her. After all, Su Jing doesn't know how to take concubines. It's better to be angry with his mother-in-law than with 3 wives and 4 concubines. Su Jing treated her too well again, holding it in his palm for fear of losing it, and holding it in his mouth for fear of melting. Zhu Nianxin felt a bit uneasy about her position and lost her sense of propriety when feeling jealous. After arguing so many times, Su Jing felt that Song Hongzhuang was better than her in every aspect. She is equally pregnant, but Song Hongzhuang has no temper and is always considerate and gentle. When he told his mother, Princess Yan, about this matter, she felt that since she had the blood of the Su family, she should not be left behind. Speaking of it for the sake of blood, in fact, it's more about humiliating Zhu Nianxin. The maternal grandfather of Princess Yan had the surname Song, and due to the influence of Emperor Taizong, there were many officials in the court. The Princess of Yan entrusted a distant relative who was in charge of the Ministry of Revenue to take Song Hongzhuang as her adopted daughter and entered the Zhongshuan Mansion as an adopted daughter of the Song family. For the sake of a playboy son, the Princess of Yan has put in a lot of effort. Song Hongzhuang entered the Zhongshuan Mansion, being careful and flattering in every way. She originally came from a background as an actress and geisha, and acting to please people was her instinct. She immediately comforted the Princess of Yan and made her happy. Meanwhile, the Princess of Yan also unexpectedly discovered that the relationship between her son and Zhu Nianxin was deteriorating day by day. How sad Zhu Nianxin's days are, how happy the Princess of Yan is. So, without paying attention to propriety for a moment, something went wrong during labor. Zhu Nianxin is a lady from a wealthy family. Although her personality has become a bit weak, she still has some temper. Princess Yan insulted her, but Zhu Nianxin didn't answer back, let alone argue, and sat angrily without saying anything. After a while, the Princess of Yan said she was unfilial. The aunts left behind by Su Kun relied on the Princess of Yan to live, and naturally targeted Zhu Nianxin everywhere. A flattering Song Hongzhuang came, and although everyone knew that she came from a humble background, they deliberately held her to step on Zhu Nianxin. When greeting Princess Yan in the morning and evening, she spoke ill of Zhu Nianqin, accused her of unfilial piety, and said she had no heart. After the double ninth festival, the Princess of Yan suddenly wanted to eat bamboo shoots one day. Everyone incited, saying that if Zhu Nianqin had filial piety, he should take someone to dig up bamboo shoots and bring them back. Everyone present knows that she is about to give birth, and many have had children before, but unfortunately, no one opposes it. Zhu Nianqin was forced to take 2 maids with her due to helplessness. This kind of thing was originally done by servants, and in order to show filial piety, she had to go. Otherwise, Song Hongzhuang would be the first to dig bamboo shoots, and if she looked back for at least half a month, the Princess of Yan would look down on her. The bamboo forest is located at the northwest end of Zhongshuan Prefecture, and no one goes there usually. The forest was surprisingly large, and Zhu Nianqin brought 2 maids. When she entered the bamboo forest, her stomach hurt. A girl went to report and seek help, and another girl helped her to the Itsue building behind the forest. When Su Zheng arrived with his mother-in-law, maid, and doctor, Zhu Nianqin gave birth to a son and a daughter alone in the Ruyi building. Usually, when Zhu Nianqin complains to him, Su Zheng always thinks it's her own carelessness. But now that he saw it, he also understood a bit in his heart. If the Princess of Yan had been kind to Zhu Nian, she wouldn't have instructed her to dig bamboo shoots at this critical moment, with only 2 little girls by her side. With the support of Su Zheng and the birth of a son and a daughter in one breath, Zhu Nianqin's life in the Zhongshuan mansion was somewhat easier. However, Zhu Nian was weak and sickly, and had some problems during childbirth. After several years of delay, she passed away when her child was 4 or 5 years old. When she left, Su Zheng realized that his relationship with Song Hongzhuang had hurt her deeply. When Zhu Nianqin first married into the Zhongshuan mansion, they said everything and were truly a divine couple. Despite being suppressed by the Princess of Yan, Zhu Nianqin can still endure. But later on, when she became pregnant, Su Zheng put on Song Hong's makeup outside and had a child. Zhu Nianqin's will was completely shattered. She didn't know what the meaning of her persistence was. Having given birth, Zhu Nianqin's situation has improved. She is a legitimate wife and has given birth to her eldest son, who will inherit the title in the future. With her children, she can also become a wealthy lady. But Zhu Nianqin's inner demons were too heavy, and she was too disappointed with Su Zheng, unable to come out between the past and reality of the divine couple. Su Zheng's oath still lingered in his ears, but Song Hongzhuang's child was born with her wishes and Zhu Jun. The depth of the original love, the depth of the current resentment. Although Su Zheng was a playboy, he was influenced by the Princess of Yan and was not enthusiastic about taking concubines. His father Su Kun had a legitimate wife before marrying Princess Yan. Just that wife gave birth to 2 sons, fell ill, and soon passed away. Before Princess Yan entered the door, Su Kun did not exercise much restraint in his concubine's affairs. After Princess Yan entered the door, Su Kun restrained himself a bit and left the crown prince's position to her child. However, before Princess Yan got married, she was a woman with a fiery personality and couldn't tolerate any filth in her eyes. Su Kun secretly carried her back, and the Princess of Yan killed one by one, causing chaos in the capital, which is well known to everyone. Later, Su Kun died suddenly, and the Princess of Yan did not feel much sad. She raised her only son Su Zheng, and her life became even more comfortable. After Emperor Taizong ascended the throne, the Zhongshuan mansion also received constant favor due to the relationship with Princess Chang of Yan. However, Su Zheng, who grew up like this, although also indulged in drinking and playing with playboys, did not put in any effort towards femininity. He felt that for a lifetime, there would be a pair of people, and no matter what, we had to find the one we liked the most. End of this chapter.